Good afternoon for 4 News Now. I'm Rob King. Welcome to today's KXLY Plus Daily Rundown. I'll take you through some of the top local headlines and give an inside look as to what the 4 News Now team is working on today. Before we get to that, though, coming up tomorrow night at 4 News Now at 6, Aaron Luna will be having a special report looking at Spokane County SWAT. And before we get to Aaron, here's a little tease for that.
The Spokane County SWAT team, they're being deployed more often, on average once a week. 4 News Now wanted to know why, and how does new technology help them protect you? Aaron Luna reports. Thursday only on 4 News Now at 6.
So, the man with more details than the tease, Aaron Luna. Let's go ahead and pull him in. Aaron, how are you? Thanks for taking time before you have to get into work to speak with me.
Of course. Always good to see you, Rob.
Awesome. So, Aaron, why don't you just talk about how this special report came about and give us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I was kind of struck by the fact that last year Spokane County SWAT was called out about 47 times, and that's the most calls they've received in the last 5 years. At least that's the data we're looking at. 47 times, you average that out almost once a week, right? And that's just calling like a full SWAT response. That includes a few things where they were called out and then never made it to the actual scene, or, was called out for a special event, a public presentation or something like that. But then you also factor in the warrant service group, which is kind of a smaller group of men and women from the SWAT team that kind of, they're still trained the same way that SWAT is, but they don't need the full response. So that warrant service group, or WSU, was called out 9 times. So you kind of add that into the numbers as well. And you're looking at SWAT call outs about once a week. And so that was kind of struck me as interesting, especially with the numbers increasing. Spokane County is growing, so you have to factor in some of that as well, the population increase. But I really wanted to know, what are the factors that go into calling out a SWAT response, and then looking at some of the new technology that they are using to kind of end these calls in the most peaceful way possible. And so then we looked at their drone program, which is fairly new. If you think about it, in the last 5 years, their first drone that they ever bought, 5 years ago, now sits in the Spokane County Law Enforcement Museum, which is in the Spokane Valley Mall. So that's how fast the technology is developing.
Absolutely, and especially in something like law enforcement, you really want to be the most up to date, because a lot of the times the criminals are going to be the most up to date.
Yeah, and you want to have every tool possible, especially when the directive from the state now is to create time, distance, and shielding when you're in a barricaded person situation. So you want to take your time. You don't want to rush into anything. You want to create distance. You want to stay as far back from that person who's having, who's in an emotional state right now, who may not be thinking clearly. So you want to stand back, not pressure them. And you want to have shielding, and that's for law enforcement as well as the public. You want to be behind something, you want to be protected. So when you put those three things into consideration, something like a drone, whether it's in the air or on the ground, is the perfect tool to use to send into that home or that area to make that first contact, find out what's going on, and keep your deputies and officers out of harm's way while assessing the situation. So it's pretty cool, the technology that they have. The first drone, like I said, now in a museum, they have multiple drones. A lot of them are equipped with a FLIR camera, which is forward-looking infrared, so they can see that thermal image, almost like a night vision, but it's, looking for heat. And so that creates a lot of opportunities. You'll see in the video coming up tomorrow how they search in the pitch black in a forested area for someone who has potentially threatened someone else with a gun. You don't want to send all your officers in walking around in the dark looking for someone who may be armed.
Yeah, creating a dangerous situation for them too.
Exactly. You can just pop a drone up in the air, turn on that FLIR camera, and give your guys on the ground a heads-up view of what they're walking into, and that's been utilized multiple times. That also works in fire situations. We have video where the drone in Spokane County went up to look at an area that was on fire, kind of a wooded area, and so it spotted all the smoke. Firefighters are walking in. You see the picture, trees, smoke coming out of the trees, and you're thinking, okay, now where's the actual flames? You flip that image to a FLIR camera, and then you can really look at where the fire is burning and direct the crews on the ground to, find exactly what they need to fight that fire. It was also interesting that the Spokane County SWAT guys, gals were showing me, they were kind of doing a training when I went and talked to them, and they had 3 of their drones out, and some of the smaller ones they use to actually fly into a home, and they can search the home that way.
Wow.
And look for people who are barricaded, and then they can also just set that drone down on a table, on the ground, anywhere in the home, and then whoever's flying the drone gets on the phone and starts talking to the person who's sitting right there. And you'll see that in this video. They do an example of that.
Oh, that's cool. So it's like a Ring camera. They can actually do like a walkie-talkie back and forth.
Yeah, he just gets on his phone and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?
Oh,
You
wow.
want to come outside? Can you put the gun down? How you doing? What can we help you with?"
So
What's
did you
going
go on
Let's
like a
talk.
SWAT ride-along, or just kind of experience the training?
They kind of set up a training scenario where there was a house, they put someone inside, and they flew the drone into the house, looked around, found that person, landed right on the table next to them, and then just had a conversation with the person.
Got it. Well, Aaron,
And so
it sounds super fascinating. It's going to be really cool to see all those technological advances that are coming through in law enforcement. One of the things also that you're going to touch on is the increase of calls. Did they mention why? Like, why are they going to so many calls, and why does it seem to be growing?
there's several factors when I was talking to the sheriff about that. Part of it is, they don't have as many resources as they used to, so possibly they're not training every single deputy up into, the SWAT team skills and tactics there. So, deputies don't have the extensive training that they may have in the past. That's what the sheriff said could be one factor. We also look at current legislation, which calls for that time, distance, and shielding. So now they're required to bring out all their resources possible when you have a barricaded person in that type of situation. So they want to put all the resources out there. And so that's another factor you have to consider. And so we kind of sat down and talked through, several different areas and why this is happening. It's hard to say. You look at the numbers from the last 5 years, Rob, and so you're looking at 30, 28, 40, 35, and then you get to last year, 47. So you do see that increase, and it's not a gradual increase, but over the years, you can kind of understand that, SWAT is being called out more. It's also really a factor of safety. When you have tools and resources that are designed to end these types of barricaded situations in the most peaceful way, why wouldn't you call them as often as possible?
Sure.
I mean, it does put a strain on your department. You're pulling SWAT guys off patrol. These SWAT guys, it's not just one unit that sits around and waits for these calls where someone's barricaded who's possibly dangerous. They're on patrol. So, you're working your guys pretty hard, your guys and gals pretty hard. And so that can, put a stress on your department as well. So there's multiple factors that kind of go into that situation. And talking with, the sheriff and a couple of the SWAT commander and one of the detectives, they're also saying there's, they feel as if there's a shift in the mentality of people in the community where they feel as if they don't have to necessarily obey law enforcement commands. And so they would kind of tell you that it's a perception shift that's also contributing to these calls. It's really hard to back that up with data.
Sure.
In this type of thing, but you're talking to the guys on the ground who deal with this almost once a week. So it's hard to kind of ignore that perception. So we kind of get into all those types of things a little bit in more detail. We'll do that tomorrow in the special report.
Got it. Well, it sounds totally fascinating. I'm looking forward to it. Was there anything that you had to cut from your report for time, but it's something that you found interesting or learned?
I think just the fact that the technology is developing so quickly. Like they're buying drones 5 years ago. Now they have multiple drones that have multiple capabilities with the FLIR cameras. The small ones, they search homes. One of the guys was telling me that, you can get a little robot with a track, the wheels.
Yeah.
Kind of like a small little tank track.
And you picture like a bomb disposal robot.
Exactly. You can drive those robots into a house or an area looking for someone who may be barricaded inside. He says a lot of times those aren't the cleanest homes, so you can't actually get around. So that's where those small aerial vehicles come in. Just so handy because you don't have to worry about the obstacles on the ground. You can, go upstairs, look through rooms if possible. They have special tools on some of them where you have a carbide tip, almost looks like a little helicopter blade, where if they needed to, they could fly up to a window and theoretically break that window so that they can access inside. So they don't have to put someone up next to the house. If they have a suspect who is firing shots from inside, they can use the drone to break the window.
What they need to add next, though, is probably like a net gun. Shoots a giant net like Scooby-Doo.
Well, we were talking about, what's next, and I think you're kind of on the same track. Like, what happens then? You're starting to incorporate more technology in these drones. The Spokane County SWAT department doesn't have a robot that carries like tear gas inside of a building, but there are robots that do that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a flying drone that does that either. And so I guess the natural progression, and some people would say, well, it's just, the next step is arming those drones.
Sure.
And, so you have to ask that question, and SWAT commander told me that's not going to happen. They're never going to trust a mechanical device with something that dangerous.
Yeah, something that could hurt someone. That's when you want that human critical thinking.
Yeah, and they were talking about, what does it look like if you had drones as first responders? So let's say someone calls in and says, oh, there's, a man with a gun in the park over here. They're thinking, okay, well, what if we had a drone pilot who was stationed at headquarters, but then could launch a drone from, let's say, a fire department or one of, what do you call I can't think of the name for it, but like your remote police station, kind of like how SPD has, one downtown and then one in other areas. So let's just say you precinct. Thank you.
Yeah.
Gosh,
I got you.
I couldn't think of it. Or you could launch it from, a county building somewhere else.
Sure.
And so you get that drone up in the air as quickly as possible. And that drone gets on scene just to give first responders an idea of what they're walking into. Is there something there? Can they see smoke, or what's that coming from? So they're kind of tossing around that idea. That, even though it's just kind of the what if scenario right now, groups like the ACLU is like, well, that's a big concern, because then you're getting into a notion of, okay, where Fourth Amendment privacy rights, what you're flying over people's homes. What else are you looking at? So, this is how it's developing. It's developing quickly, and you have to look forward to something like that. So we'll touch on that in the special report tomorrow as well.
Awesome. Well, Aaron's special report on SWAT in Spokane County airs tomorrow night at 6 p.m. If you missed the whole of this interview, this will also be up on kxly.com momentarily once we wrap up and post it. So, Aaron, thank you for joining me. Appreciate your time.
Rob, thanks for having me.
Yep, I'll talk to you later.
See ya.
Well, thank you, Aaron, for hopping on with me real quick to talk about his special report. In addition, again, you can watch that. That's going to be 4 News Now at 6, airing tomorrow, and then it will be up at kxly.com and KXLY Plus following its conclusion. Let's get into the daily rundown, see what everybody's working on today, but let's start with a look outside. It's going to be kind of a higher pressure system moving in, so a lot of this heat that we have been seeing is going to increase. That crazy thunderstorm that moved through the Spokane Coeur d'Alene metro later. There is a chance of thunderstorms coming up later on tonight, but likely just to hit the areas of northeast Washington and northern parts of Idaho. So not as bad as yesterday. Looking ahead, that is when most of that heat is going to move in, and we're going to be into the upper 80s and 90s through at least next week. So this is what tomorrow's looking like, a high near 89. It's going to be clear skies, though, pretty much from here on out. As we look at the 7-day forecast, as you can see, we're going to be touching 90s through next week, and most likely a hot 4th of July. So be sure to stay hydrated and take breaks. Don't stay in the sun all day. Let's take a look at what the team is working on today. 4 News Now's Natalie Grant is following up to a story that Bronte Sorotsky did yesterday regarding the Bowner County commissioners. Yesterday there was a heated meeting and where Chair Steve Bradshaw wanted to motion to end public comment, and that rubbed another commissioner, Asia Williams, the wrong way. She disagreed publicly and created a tense atmosphere, because they also cited that there's been more people at Bonner County participating in these meetings, so it created a lot of tension in the meeting room yesterday. So today, Natalie is going to sit down with Commissioner Asia Williams to talk about what happened and where Bonner County goes from here. Vanessa Perez, she's taken a look at the Regional Homeless Collaborative. The Spokane Regional Collaborative has announced their plan. This has been something we've been covering for a couple months now. It's all these entities: Spokane County, the city, Liberty Lake, Airway Heights, there we go, that's the other one. And all these cities and towns and the Spokane County are all collaborating to try to solve the homelessness issue together. Well, that collaborative group presented their plan today, and it's an ambitious goal of lowering homelessness by 40% in the next 2 years. They laid out a lot of details. It's pretty comprehensive. This plan involves what they're going to be funding, what they're going to be looking into, and how they can hopefully reach that goal of lowering homelessness by 40% in the next 2 years. And Vanessa Perez will have those details. Peter Choi, he is in Idaho today, taking a look at fireworks prices. Inflation not just hitting eggs and milk, but fireworks. Someone in our newsroom reported that a package that was $100 last year is now $200 this year, so prices have gone up tremendously. Peter is going to be speaking with firework booths about what they're seeing as far as costs and consumers as people prepare for the 4th of July weekend. 4th of July is on the Tuesday, which is weird, but so this will probably be the weekend where we might get most of the fireworks and most of the celebration. Do so safely. Speaking of Bronte Sorotsky earlier, she was working mornings today, and she went out to Thrive's International Soccer Camp. Now, Thrive International is a nonprofit that helps with refugee children and to provide resources for them. So they have a soccer camp for kids of all different ages today at North Central High School. It's a 4-day camp that actually ends tomorrow. They had over 100 kids sign up, which is the most they've had. And Thursday, the public is invited to come out to North Central to watch some of the games and enjoy food from Feast World Kitchen. That full story is up on our website right now, kxly.com. So thank you for joining the Daily Rundown. Thank you, Aaron Luna, for sitting with me. That full interview will be up on our website in just a couple of moments. It will also be up on kxly+, so be sure to download the kxly+. That's free 24/7 streaming news on your connected TVs. So that's Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. Also be sure to download the 4 News Now mobile app so you can get the latest in breaking news in your community. So thank you for hopping on with me. Be sure to tune in to 4 News Now at 5 for all those stories and more. But for now, live in studio, I'm Rob King for kxly+.